Good morning. My name is Linda Zetterberg, and I am controller on the board, which is someone who deals with the money, if you didn't know. We want to welcome everyone to our open and inclusive community. As Unitarians and Universalists, we hold that there are many spiritual paths to truth and meaning, and we support one another as we explore these paths. First time and returning visitors, it is our custom to invite you to stand and give your name and where you're from, if you feel comfortable doing so. Are there any visitors who would like to introduce themselves today? Yes. Welcome, Joe. Anyone else? Okay. Welcome to everyone who's visiting, whether you stood or not. Coffee with our guests, sometimes coffee hour can be crowded and maybe a little intimidating. Coffee hour is after the service. If you're a first-time visitor or you've been here more than once and would like to have a more casual way of getting to know our members in church, grab a cup of coffee after the service, or come as you are, and meet us in the lower annex, the stairs down, just below the sanctuary. And there'll be people there to talk to you, so if you'd like to do that. In addition, our minister, Reverend Michael Walker, and Director of Religious Education, Steve Cooper, and our Congregational Life Coordinator, Mary Law, are present, and they'll be happy to meet with you. For those of you who are live streaming via YouTube, please be aware that during times of sharing our joys and concerns this morning, the live stream will go blank, and it will return after the joys and concerns. Our service can be heard outside the glass doors at the back of the sanctuary, should anyone feel the need to step out of the service for any reason. And as we begin our service, please remember to silence your cell phones or electronic devices. And then I have a special announcement. Thank you to our wonderful community for your auction donations. Get your tickets for the Saturday, November 2nd, 2019 Goods and Services Auction, Harry Potter and the Ministry of UUs. Wanted, feast wizards to help our Tasty Provisions ministry serve a magical banquet. Also wanted, it would be a shame not to have fun activities for the kiddos at the Harry Potter auction. We desperately need a tiny wizard watcher to keep the wee wizarding ones busy with pizza, crafts, and a movie. See the chair, Beth Johnson, I'm gonna murder this, CUNY, and the auction team in Creeves Hall after the service to step up to be a part of the magic. And I'll also be taking ticket donations after the service, so you can follow this shirt. And that should be it. Thank you.
So for those who are newer here, you may not know this. I'm Reverend Mike Walker, and I'm here as an interim minister. I'm here for a 2-year period while this church is kind of imagining your future together and imagining what type of ministry you will call for your long-term settled ministry that will come later. To help us with that, we have invited an old friend to come back and work with us after the service. My colleague, a new friend, and a friend to many here, the Reverend Lisa Presley. Yeah. I realize some folks RSVP'd for lunch that will be provided in the Creeves Hall, and other folks are going to run off to lunch and come back. And if you are a parent and need childcare is available. So I really encourage folks to come back and participate in the workshop this afternoon. Our opening words are by the Reverend Reinhold Niebuhr. Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime, therefore we are saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history, therefore we are saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone, therefore we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. May it ever be so. I'd like to invite forward our youth chalice lighters. Good morning.
We are Unitarian Universalists, with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Together we care for our earth and work for friendship and peace in our world.
Blessed be. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit and remain standing for the affirmation. Right now we are singing 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
join me in saying the words of the affirmation together?
We're gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. We're gonna keep on walking proudly. Keep on walking proudly. Keep on walking proudly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We're gonna work for change together. Work for change together. Work for change together. Never turning back. Never turning back. We're gonna reach across our border. Reach across our border. Reach across our border. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We're gonna work for change together. Work for change together. Work for change together. Never turning back. Never turning back. We will not bow down to racism. No, no, we will not bow down to injustice. I say we will not give in to oppression. No, 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 never turning back. Never turning back. We will not bow down to racism. We will not bow down to injustice. We will not give in to oppression. No, 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 never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back. We will not bow down to racism. We will not bow down to injustice. We will not give in to oppression. No, 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 never turning back. 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 Never turning back.
It is time to gather, and this is a chance for a lesson for all ages. I want to tell you the story about the crow and the partridges. And this is from an ancient collection of the Sanskrit fables written probably around 500 AD. And the collection is called the Bidpai Fables. So there's a crow flying across the road, and it looks down and it sees a group of partridges. He says, "Oh, what a beautiful gait these partridges have. I must see if I can walk like them." So she got behind the partridges and tried for a long time to strut like them. So a crow typically just kind of puts its head forward and will stop and look around. But the partridges, they kind of So the crow is like, "I want to do that." And the crow will go, came up behind the partridge and just couldn't do it. And partridge looks behind and goes, "What are you doing?" And the crow says, "I'm trying to be like you. Don't be angry with me, but I've never seen such a beautiful walk, and I want to walk like you." And the partridge says, "You're a crow. Walk like a crow." Well, over time, the crow keeps just constantly trying to walk like the partridges. And, it never quite got it, but it kept doing it over and over and over. And eventually, it neither walked like a partridge, but it couldn't remember what it was like to be a crow either. So the message here is, be true to yourself if you want to be your best. But if you're not true to yourself, you're going to forget who you are. Please stand and body your spirit. We're going to sing together hymn number 131, "Love Will Guide Us." The words will be projected.
Love calls us into community, and love calls us back when times are hard, and love keeps us together when times are good. Love is the glue of this church family. As you may know, however, love is not legal tender in these parts. So we exchange love for dollars to support the work of the church. The campus you see here and all that happens here and with those here working in the surrounding community is supported by the love and financial support of our members and friends. If you are here for the first time, we invite you to let the offering bowl pass you by because you are our honored guests. And if you've made this your spiritual home, We thank you for your continuing generosity. This morning's offering will now be received.
We come together as a community, in part to support each other in times of hardship and to celebrate together in times of joy. If you have a great joy or grave concern from your personal life, you are invited to come forward and share them and share your name, please. we have told others about them or hold onto them in silence. We do so that these, our friends, do not carry them alone. You are now invited into a moment of silence and meditation as we hold these joys and sorrows in our hearts and minds. We will bring our meditation to a conclusion with the ringing of the bell. Thank you. Blessed be.
There is an insert. There is an insert in your order of service for this next piece. We would like to invite you to join us in singing the melody of this piece. The melody will be sung 6 times, 1 time by the sopranos and altos alone, and the other 5 times by you. So that you may hear it, I'd like the choir to sing it once. So let's.
Many windows, one light, many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
Now would you join us in singing it once? 1, 2, 3.
Many windows, one light, many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
Lovely. A reminder that the sopranos and altos will sing it first, and I'll cue you when it's your time to sing. Jane Handy, one of our readers, will also cue you your other 5 times. Also in your insert, you'll see piece listed in 9 different languages. The choir will be chanting those 9 words 6 times. We invite you to join us on that as well. The pronunciations are listed. The only one that may not seem intuitive is the Esperanto. P-A-C-O is pronounced patso. This is all Lifted Hearts by UU Minister and our former minister, Kendall Gibbons, and UU Minister, Jason Shelton.
What is hateful to you, do not do to others. This is the whole of the law. All the rest is commentary.
In the Hindu legend of the Mahabharata, the divine Krishna declared, "This is the sum of duty. Do nothing unto others which would cause you pain, if done to you."
It is written, it is taught. May it be so.
Many windows, one light, many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
In the Gospel of Matthew, in the Christian scriptures, the Messiah Jesus says, "Whatever you wish that others would do to you, do so to them."
In the Buddhist text of the Odana Varga, the student is urged, hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful.
It is written, it is taught, may it be so.
Many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
In the Muslim hadith of Al-Nawawi, the Prophet Muhammad teaches, no one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself.
In the Tai Shang Treaty of Taoism, the seeker is instructed, regard your neighbor's pain as your gain, and your neighbor's loss as your own loss.
It is written, it is taught, may it be so.
Many windows, one light, many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
In the ancient wisdom of Shinto, there is a saying, the heart of the person before you is a mirror. See there your own form.
The Oglala Lakota spiritual leader Black Elk wrote, all things are our relatives. What we do to everything, we do to ourselves.
It is written, it is taught, may it be so.
Many windows, one light, many waters, one sea, all lifted hearts are free.
Shalom, Hasiti, Salam.
It is such a blessing to have the choir with us for the first time this church year. This has been beautiful, and thank you all. In recent months, we've been speaking the words of an affirmation that connects us with hundreds of other Unitarian Universalist churches who say the same words every Sunday morning. I'm speaking about words of affirmation written by James Vila Blake. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You've heard these words before, yes? As I said, this affirmation is found in so many of our UU congregations around the country. They are spoken so often that I wonder if those who speak these words every week even hear them anymore. As these words are spoken, do we stop to think what they actually mean? And when we do we find that we are actually living out the affirmation we speak? In other words, do we walk our talk? Let me say it another way so you can get where I'm going with this. I know you've heard this, but please bear with me to hear it in a different way. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. I hope that breaking it up like that helps us to hear individual words that have meaning for us, meaning that may have been forgotten during the rote recitation of the affirmation. I say this because I believe these words should translate into actions, something I think everyone strives for, although I think we can all use a reminder from time to time. I know I do. Reverend Tom Owen Toll reminded me of this very thing when he wrote the following in his book about how the big concepts in life is seen through the lens of Unitarian Universalism called Theology Ablaze. He wrote, "Unitarian Universalists live by our aims, not by our accomplishments. Consequently, our opening worship anchor is often called the aspiration. We say affirmation instead. It's often called the aspiration, not the achievement. We say such words as, 'May love be the spirit of this congregation.' In short," he wrote, "may love be our aim and our guiding force." One time, I preached about grace and love and described a form of love, agape, or platonic love. Afterwards, someone commented that UUs talk about love like it's something mechanical. Perhaps that perception was a result of the approach I took that day, I don't know. Although I didn't think my explanation was particularly mechanical, I don't always know how another person may hear and assimilate my words. This feedback reminded me that it is sometimes difficult to describe love in all of its forms. The mystic and poet Jalaluddin Balkhi, more commonly known as Rumi, spoke of love frequently, but he recognized in himself a human deficiency in trying to describe love. So maybe I'm in good company when I stumble in describing it myself. In one of Rumi's poems, he wrote, "However much I might try to expound or explain love, when I come to love itself, I am ashamed of my explanations. In trying to explain love, the intellect fell down in the mud like a mule. Love alone can explain the mysteries of love." I told you he was a mystic. If we asked each person here to define love, I suspect that every answer would be quite different. Why is this important concept so difficult to define in a way that all would agree, saying, "Oh yes, that is what love means"? This is so intangible of a concept because it's really many different concepts. There are many different kinds and understandings of love. In one sense, love is an emotion that transcends the human experience. Another herd was from our Universalist forebears who conceived of love as God, or at least as a manifestation of God. In popular culture, we hear of love usually only in the romantic sense. Others find it in the relationship between a parent and a child. Others think of love as a force of nature. In a poem about love as a force of nature, Rebecca Parker wrote, "Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will." We may take heart in the thought that love is an immutable force of nature, and that causes us to strive to be our best selves when interacting with others. And in doing so, both they and we are rewarded with a feeling of that force of nature. We often say we can feel the love. Perhaps love is the implicit nature, the foundation or underlying framework of what we UUs often call the interdependent web of all existence. That is, I wonder if it is love that ties us all together, that connects us with all others around the world, all life on earth, and the earth itself. In this understanding of love, we're speaking of loving our family and loving our neighbors by feeling compassion and love for humanity when we are faced with another living being in abject poverty or trapped in a war zone. And an even more abstract love we hold for our world and all that is in it when we are faced with the realities of current events and climate change. What is the world we will leave our grandchildren going to be like? Even if one does not have grandchildren yet, a universal love calls us to strive to leave behind a place that was better than we found it. Another aspect of love I've described is a holy love. Rumi was known for describing religious experience as a love affair with the divine. His view is that love is God or a manifestation of God. His mystical spiritual practice, Sufism, teaches that a close and intimate relationship with the God of the heart is an experience of true and holy love. In my own life, experience of God as love and with love as a force of nature are pretty much the same thing. Others might disagree with me, but for me, they are the same. I don't know an anthropomorphized God. I only know the spirit of life and love that permeates our existence. But I respect the Sufi teachings of Rumi and others as the Muslim path that places love as their highest value and peace as an outgrowth of that love. That's quite a shift from all the anti-Muslim rhetoric I've heard too much of lately. Let's shift gears now. We have heard about love as a noun, a state of being. Now consider love as more of a verb than a noun. Love as an action, something we do to uphold ourselves, our neighbors, the world around us, and even some nebulous spirit of life or God or whatever you understand as the ultimate that is greater than all of us. This is, in fact, what our covenant is really all about, sharing love in many different ways, and is why we say we should help one another. We are here to do all we reasonably can to make the world a better place. But there is something we need to do before that. Before we can help others, we need to help ourselves. And no, I don't think it is selfish to say so. Consider this. When an oxygen mask drops down from an airplane cabin, if the cabin loses pressure, we are told to put our mask on and pull the tabs. You've all seen this, right? Yeah. To put our masks on first before helping another. Why? Well, I can't really do much to help another person if I've passed out. Right? Likewise, I believe that we need to love ourselves or learn to love ourselves before we can truly love others. This one can be hard to accomplish. So I'd return to Owen Toll's words earlier that it's important to aspire to loving ourselves rather than being focused on the accomplishment of that. It's a lifelong endeavor, I think. When one makes a mistake, make amends and forgive oneself rather than holding on to a self-criticism like a lifeline. Let it go. So learning to love ourselves is an ongoing process rather than some completed achievement. And this brings us back to where we started. Once we love ourselves, we are free to love others and put this into some sort of action. We say love is the spirit of this church and service its law. Another way of saying this is that we recognize among our highest values and ideals is the idea that we help others in need and that this form of service is an expression of love. Returning for a moment to some of our historical Unitarian and Universalist forebears, many of them preached that it is by our deeds rather than creeds that we are saved, that the promise of doing good works, sharing the love, is that we will then live good lives, to live lives full of love. William Ellery Channing spoke of salvation by character, which implies that the theological promise of salvation comes as a result of how we choose to live our lives, how we share the gifts of love, and by what standards we live. We don't often speak about salvation in UU churches anymore. Doing so is often quickly followed by the question, what is it we're being saved from? Could it be that we are saving ourselves from a life without love, giving and receiving love, without aspiration to reach beyond the everyday and do some good in the world? We covenant to help one another in each of our personal journeys to find our own truths, to express love by helping yet others. This may seem somewhat circular, yet it also seems to be a profound truth at the very base of humanity. It is so deeply ingrained in a human experience that a person cannot live without love. Perhaps you've heard of the scientific study that showed that babies cannot thrive without love. Furthermore, the only way humanity has ever overcome the obstacles we were faced with throughout our long evolution was to work together. The only way groups of us have ever throughout history dwelled together in peace was to work on that together. Love is an action and is the cornerstone of our existence. Love is not just the spirit of this church, it is also the driving force of our lives. In closing, I want to share some words from one of my favorite hymns, which we will sing soon. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. This seems to me to be the quintessential UU teaching, our entire theology summarized in that little phrase. Faith, hope, and love, shared widely and frequently, is the promise of the Spirit. May it ever be so, and blessed be you all. Before we go into the hymn, I want to say something. Our closing hymn is Answering the Call of Love. That's a rewrite of the words. It formerly was called Standing on the Side of Love, and it and the song you heard from the choir a moment ago are both from my colleague, the Reverend Jason Shelton. And the denomination is kind of having a conversation right now about how to honor the grace and love that is projected in the works of artists when a person has been very human with feet of clay and made a huge mistake. And Reverend Shelton announced recently he was removing himself from the fellowship of UU ministry because he was out of covenant with his family and his church. He had an affair with a married congregant. So we still have this music, and I just want to point out that people make mistakes and then they need to make amends, and then maybe they can come back into fellowship with the rest of us. But in the meanwhile, the art still speaks to people's hearts, and let's not discount that. That's still part of our tradition. So I invite you now to rise in body or in spirit in singing the new words for Answering the Call of Love, which will be projected on the screen. As a community, we have co-created a deep and life-nourishing well of hope. May we always let the richness of these waters, this well of hope, nourish others too. As we walk in the world, let us share some of our vision, some of our love, some of our hope, so that others may benefit and thrive. This is our mission, to draw from our well of hope to nourish others out there and then return here replenished. May we do so with love and care. Blessed be. Just a reminder that we are having this ministry startup workshop with the Reverend Lisa Presley back here in the sanctuary at 12 noon. If you're dreaming about what your spiritual home will be like in the future, if you have aspirations to share, this will be a chance for your voice to be heard. Go now in peace.